But Tigers on the Rocks, welcome to a Lambeau walk and talk. We have sunny and 75 degrees here in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Let's take advantage of the weather. And Dave had the genius thought this morning of we need to be hearing more from the fans. We want to hear more from you. What should we be talking about more, whether it's position groups? And I mean, as it just was announced, a roster spot is locked up by a punter. I'll let Dave take, but hey, today's all about the fans. A little bit of walk and talk, and just talking shop.
Yeah. So we first and foremost, like we're loving the support. We're slowly growing. This started off as just a workshop idea between me and Jordan here. Of we would call each other after every game, before the game, kind of get our assessment of how the team's looking, how you think their game's going to go. And then after the game, we would kind of break down positions, every big plays, small plays. Man, we're all about it. So if you guys want to ask us questions, we're by no means ESPN experts here. We're just two guys that like to drink a cocktail now and again and talk Packers. So please fire into the comments what you want us to answer, whether it's week one against the Bears or season predictions, certain players, what have you. But yeah, there was kind of breaking news right before we took off, which is Pat O'Donnell has been cut for the rookie punter, which is kind of your surprise cut. There's always a few of them. There's sometimes a trade for the Packers for a guy that you wouldn't expect to be traded, and there's sometimes cuts, which I think everyone had Pat O'Donnell marked down on their 53. Unless you take a look at my last video, which I said he was going to get cut.
Daniel Big Leg Whelan, we got to come up with a nickname for him. That's what he did for a bulk of the training camp practices that I attended. And as it's been mentioned, probably ad nauseum on this show, the youth movement is in full force, and the first roster move of the day shows our commitment to just that. And how LaFleur and Gutekunst are feeling about this roster, and you're over the age of 30, you know.
Oh man, me and you, buddy, would be so off this team already. But
it would have happened after family night. Hey, Dave, Jordan, I'm sorry. It's not you, it's us. It's not working out.
I actually do have a question for you. That's has your football, I guess, viewership changed now that you are older than most of the players on the Packers roster?
Absolutely, yeah. It's like Aaron Rodgers calls all these guys kids until you get to your third year in the pro. I don't view them as kids, but I just see it completely differently because I still look at it a lot as like when you're a teenager growing up and watching the games, you almost think these guys are 30, like they're grown men. And now that we're on that side of the fence, it's almost like, geez, these are 22, 23, 24-year-old millionaires. It's just hard to still kind of wrap my head around. And yeah, the youth movement, I see it much more where I'm like, geez, this is such just a young group of guys. And then when they make certain decisions and you're like, what were they thinking there? I'm like, well, your prefrontal cortex isn't fully developed until the age of 25.
We're getting scientific here, man. I love it.
Until the age of 25, like those are some of the thoughts that pop into my head when it does come to now being on the wrong side of 30.
Jordan, I'm going to be honest with you. When we first met at 21, there's a lot of times that I didn't know what I was thinking when I was talking to you.
Neither did I. That's where it's like David Bakhtiari says, how do you stay cool and hip with these young guys? Well, it's video games, the lingo, TikTok dances, whatever else he said. But I'm sort of feeling it for what David Bakhtiari's been preaching.
I'll tell you this, though. I think the decisions to let certain players go, especially at certain positions, gets really tough because it's not necessarily now where you have this 30-year-old veteran or, what have you versus, a 23-year-old guy. And it's like, oh, man, we have Aaron Rodgers back there and, we really need the experience. It's a lot of guys that are right around the same age that are vying for spots. So it makes this cut down really, really tough this year.
And some of those, we were talking about it a second ago. You're like, hey, if you had to pull up any other names that could be coming later today or tomorrow that would take some of this fan base by surprise, who would it be? I'm going to go ahead and go there. I think another one that is potentially on the wrong side of 30 is Justin Hollins being the next one to the Packers show the door to in favor of Brenton Cox Jr., who's had pass deflections. He's had a ton of pressures throughout the preseason games. And I think he brings more to the table on special teams ability. And he's a rookie too, so
Yeah.
maybe less injury prone. But I think that's the next one that we could be seeing in the coming hours.
You can make a case that Rasheed Walker and Brandon Cox are essentially the same player at different positions. In terms of like coming out of the draft, Rasheed Walker, 7th round pick, Cox, undrafted, both very, very talented, highly touted, but massive red flags in terms of character and how they react to coaching and just off the field issues. Rasheed Walker has a chance to be the starting right tackle, or at the very minimum, he's coming in at left tackle for Bakhtiari if Bakhtiari ever goes down. Cox, you can make the same case of, holy crap, this guy has a chance to just eat up some snaps and get into the rotation right off the bat. I mean, the pass deflections, the bend around the edge rush, like the Packers are kind of breaking the mold a little bit in terms of how they talent evaluate. Of okay, like later rounds, we're going to take some swipes at some guys. Inikbari was another one of these guys. Fell in the draft, and they took him in the 5th round, and they're like, he's too good to pass up.
That doesn't really fit. Yeah, doesn't really fit our mold. We don't take flyers on guys that have a checkered past or run into a little bit of trouble in college.
It's for the last 30 years, it's been very buttoned up, white collar way of handling the NFL. Of we want the players to reflect the city, and now I think it's more, yeah, we'll take a chance on a guy, and if he kind of bites us, he's UDFI or he's a 7th round pick, we'll cut bait if he proves he can't hold up his end of the bargain. But so far, those guys have been not a peep off the field, and they've been producing on the field.
And it could also be taking a look at it from the vantage point of normally we don't take a flyer on those guys. Like I know the Eagles have done it more recently, and you get them around the right players and the right environment, and you don't hear anything out of them. I think of Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger who dropped in the draft because of him smoking weed in college. But it's like, why wouldn't you take a chance on these guys when they're in Green Bay, Wisconsin? There's not a ton of opportunities for them to be getting caught in nightclubs or being out till 3 a.m. in the morning. And when you have captains like an Aaron Jones, who's about as, straight
yes,
and arrowed,
sir.
and
no, sir.
Yeah, he's probably the best role model you could ever have as a captain on the Packers, and can do no wrong. So it's like, hey, we should have maybe been doing this a few years ago.
Jordan, I got a hard-hitting question for you. Better nightlife, Boise or Green Bay?
Better nightlife is still Boise. Boise, highly underrated, just like Brian Gutekunst in his GM capabilities and what he's put on paper these past couple, especially.
But the real question is, who has the better football team and who has the better Butterburgers? All right.
The Boise State Broncos or the Green Packers? No contest whatsoever.
Yeah.
Same thing goes with food. Boise food can't touch Green Bay. And I had my fair share of cheese curds this past weekend with the sisters in town, and now I'm glad I'm doing my 6th lap around the Titletown district to burn that off.
Tell you what, man, if we have weather like you're having right now for home opener, hell yeah, man.
Oh, this is glorious. There's tons of people out taking a walk today. I don't think you could ask for better. All right, Dave, if you put, I'll go ahead and spin the table back on you then.
Yeah.
Justin Howland's the one that I could see being a part of, hey, we're committing to the youth movement. Do you have any other players that come to mind that could take people by the wayside and being like, I didn't expect him to hit the streets?
Oh man, that's tough. I mean, I think everyone is asking for Nyman to be cut, and I think Nyman's cut. That's not really a youth movement thing. I'm trying to think, or not Newman, not Nyman. Nyman could be traded though. I could see that. Because you just have Rashid, and then at a certain point, you just have such a loaded field. You might as well get some capital for someone. Man, everyone's around the same age and stuff like that. I don't really have another like surprise in the bag. There's going to be guys that because I think Heath played his
A better reframe of the question. So it's like the last 5 or 6 roster spots.
Yeah.
I lean towards how much pull Rich Bisaccia has with his guys. I bet both of us could probably rattle off those 5 guys that they only really have special teams contributions. Do you think all of those 5, and I'll try to come up with them off the top of my head? It's Levitt.
Yes.
Eric Wilson.
Yes.
Patrick Taylor.
No. No. Taylor's not making this team.
Right, so
you're going 2.
He's not making.
You're going 2 running backs.
True. All right. So what's another Rich Bisaccia guy?
You're gonna
Nixon,
have. You're gonna have Levitt. You're gonna have.
You can't count Nixon.
Okay. You're gonna have Levitt. You're gonna have Wilson. You're gonna have McDuffie.
Who could be starting for all we know week 1.
Yeah. That's my big question mark. And I shot you a text earlier today saying if the Bears are going to do anything against us, they're going to gash us up the middle because Campbell's been injured, and Campbell, in my estimate, had a down year last year, and Walker had his ups and downs, and I've heard nothing of Walker the entire camp this year. So I'm concerned about Walker. I'm concerned about Campbell. I'm concerned about McDuffie.
Tariq Carpenter is another one of Rich's guys.
I have no faith in Savage, and you might as well just have an empty hole at the other safety spot because whether it's Rudy Ford or Johnson or Owens or Tavarius Moore, whoever you want to put in there, it'd be like a 3rd or 4th safety for any other team. Like that's one spot we just didn't address.
And both of us are cool with that. Is there any other Rich guys that were missing here? Because that's 4. I want to say there's maybe one more where, hey, if he goes 5 for 5, that assistant coaching title isn't just by name.
I want to say Walden was Bisaccia's guy. Like O'Donnell got cut because Bisaccia was like, I want the young kid.
You're saying Walden?
Yeah, I think.
No, the punter. Yeah.
Yeah, the punter. But
I thought you said Walden, and then I immediately thought of Eric Walden. I'm like, no.
Many people would.
Walden, yes.
Tariq's his guy.
All right, so that's 4.
I would say that
could be it.
We've been talking a lot about the youth movement. There is also a special teams movement. Like, you can't deny that Gutekunst is drafting for Bisaccia. He's drafting guys, or he's keeping guys, or he's bringing guys in that Bisaccia's like, I can work with these guys. I want these guys on my team. The team is definitely culturally and philosophically shifting.
And I don't think it's getting enough recognition either. Just how much say and Rich is having a huge impact and development on this roster for such an oversight when they're like we fence. No, it's a real thing in Green Bay.
Yeah, I like it. I like the shift in mentality. There's definitely a little bit more of toughness to this team. The one question mark that I still have that I'm hoping has also shifted is the physicality and the change in the defensive scheme. You can't call it's a soft defense, but I'm not calling out the players for being like soft. You know what I'm saying? It's not a mentality of, oh man, they have this, get run over mentality. I think it's schematically a soft team in terms of we're going to play 8 yards off and not let our guys do what they do best, which Rasul is better at press man. Jair is better at press man. Like, get those guys on the line of scrimmage, get their hands on some guys, and buy a half second more for our best front seven since 2014 to get after the quarterback.
And do you think there's enough big boys up front to get us into those 2nd and 8s, potentially 3rd and longs, where our pass rushers can pin their ears back and get after the quarterback? Because the way the run defense, I think, is still set up, that we can get ourselves in a lot of 2nd and 5s, 3rd and 2s, and then it's tough for our pass rushers to unleash the Kraken.
Yeah, we didn't do anything. Everything out of the draft and everything that we added, it's not run stuffers, right? It's been all Carl Brooks and Wooden are getting pass rush like in the hands of the quarterback, and Brandon Cox has been all over the quarterback, and we know what Clark can do and Slayton can do, and I could go down the line here, but they're not known for their run stuffing. They're known for they leave gaps in the line or they get run over, and yeah, run defense will be an issue like it always has been in Green Bay. But I think if we could get the quarterback more, it changes all of that, because you can even look historically, the best, not in recent memory, the best Green Bay defenses have been opportunistic and getting after the quarterback and creating turnovers, but they haven't been good at stuffing the run. They've probably been, 18th, 20th in the run, but they've been creating a bunch of turnovers or sacks or whatever pressures.
Were people wanting to give a ton of heat to like Demarius Randall or Quentin Rollins, and then even underappreciated Casey Hayward? They gave up a ton of yards back then, but if you look at it, all those guys had at least like 3 interceptions, if not 5, on the year. Dave, this is one sort of headline to keep track of as it plays out for week 1 against the Bears. I want to say these past 2 preseason games, Joe Barry has been up in the press box calling plays for the first time in 20 years. He's never done it before, but he liked it so much against the Patriots that he decided to follow it up and do it on Saturday against the Seahawks. That's something to maybe take a look at, and could change this defense, because now he has a much better vantage point in the Eagles' nest compared to being down on the field.
I'm glad you brought this up, because I almost texted you that as a joke. In terms of, it took Joe Barry 20 years to understand he has a better view from in the booth.
Bro, you got any drinks left?
The story I read on that, I was dying laughing in terms of, wow, you can see everything from here. I really enjoy it.
I've never even visited a suite before in my life, but I can see all 20. This is like what the cut up all 22 is about. I had no clue where they were getting that from.
I'm praying to God that he realizes the first play he calls, he notices the guys are 9 yards back. It says, "What are they doing?"
Are they? He's like, I didn't think about it when I was down in the field, but you're right. They look like they're giving way too much cushion. He's like, I can see where the first down marker's at. Why are we lined up still 3 yards behind it?
There should almost be a rule in the NFL where the head coach and the position coaches are on the field, and the coordinators have to be in the booth.
Agreed. That's what do you think? That's like an old school mentality of like, this the way it's always been done. We're going to be conservative here and stay true to that sort of mindset.
It's
being stubborn.
Yeah, it's I want to grab the guy by the collar and say like, "What the hell are you doing?" instead of being in a headset. I mean,
Joe Barry does like mixing it up with his players. He'll get his head in there.
I mean, not like Kevin Green, but yeah. I mean, Kevin Green wasn't a coordinator. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, we might have some flashbacks of Dom Capers if he gets in the booth. Who knows?
I think it's a great move for him. And then what like my immediate thought is after that, like, is this unprecedented? Like, is there other defensive coordinators in the league who've been in the NFL for 20 years who've never not once spent a game in the press box? Like, I want to survey now all the other 31 defensive coordinators, be like, is there others out there like this? Or like, I'm not even going to try it out. No, not even in the preseason any of these years.
I
And then
think
then LaFleur and him have a conversation. He's like, wow, this is pretty great.
I would say the vast majority of coordinators are in the booth now. I
They
think
had to.
I think it's old school to be on the field.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask my guy G Money next time I see him.
But yeah, I wish we can grab a player and ask them what her thoughts are of Joe Barry being in the booth. That if I was on the beat, that's the first question I'd ask any defensive player. What do you expect / what do you think of Barry being in the booth?
I think we have to go with it.
But yeah, that might be a revelation. That might be our coming to Jesus moment of holy shit, you can actually see the field.
Strap City is 20 yards off the ball. What was that? What was I thinking?
I think this is the most I've ever laughed on an episode, dude.
There's a reason why Jerry Gray left town.
Oh my god. But
that might be a good spot to wrap. I still have to
man.
Visit the gas station, eat lunch, all that.
The Quickie Mart.
I wish it was a Quickie Mart or a Quick Trip. It's
Quick
not.
Trip. I'm sorry, not a Quickie Mart. Quickie Mart Simpsons, the Quick Trip.
I won't do an impression either from the Simpsons Quickie Mart. I'd say that's probably one of the best highlights so far of Green Bay has been the Quick Trips. They're all the rage.
Man, I am excited. We're gonna do one more, possibly 2 episodes before Bears week. Man, we'll have more content than this. This was just kind of a impromptu. I shot you a message saying let's get on here. Let's kind of talk a little bit of football. Let's get some questions in. Dude, I'm stoked for the season to start, and then I'm stoked to come to Green Bay in a couple weeks.
It's not a finished product like our team, but just like over the course of training camp and the preseason, we're making headways too. I'll tell you what, Dave. If it's another day like this, I'll do this every day. If it's
hell yeah,
I'm not kidding. This is probably one of the nicest days in Green Bay. My first month and a week being here.
Well, you can do walking talks whenever you want, man.
I'd run it back for sure.
Keep it before noon. And we're good to go. But yeah, man, we'll kind of get the juices flowing there. I'm not going to say there's a youth movement on our podcast because we're only getting older by the day here, and we're older than a bunch of the players, but we're kind of finding our stride here.
Bro, I got a fountain of youth here at Titletown Flats. I don't know what you're talking about.
Fantastic. Man, with that, have a good day, and we'll get back on here in a couple of days here.
Let's hear from you, fans. Cheers, Dave.